Well, after falling to Texas on Saturday, Alabama's left scratching their heads and looking for some answers. They'll face Mississippi tonight in Starkville, and they'll face off against one of the best, if not the best scorer right now in the entire SEC. As Alabama looks to hang on to their ranking in the top 25, you'd have to figure a win today is a must there at Mississippi State. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And Patrick, the Alabama Crimson Tide headed into the season with guys like Aiden Holloway back, with guys like LeBaron Philon back. There was high hopes that this team could be really, really special. In the non-conference, you saw parts of that. Went on the road, got a big win in Madison Square Garden over St. John's. Went on the road to Illinois, played in Chicago, and it felt like the big venue spots where this team's kind of forte. Struggled a little bit at home, though, most recently to Texas.
Yeah, and you bring up the MSG game, and that was the start of a 4-game stretch against teams at the time that were, I believe, all ranked inside the top 15.
Right.
It was, St. John's, it was Illinois, it was Purdue, and I'm blanking on the other one off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I'll look it up.
No, is Arizona maybe? No, Arizona was later.
Was it Houston?
It might have been Houston.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I noticed from those games and what Nate Oates also noticed was, especially the Purdue game, they just could not grab the rebounding.
Right.
They could not win any of these rebounding battles at all. And as we've talked about all year, and it seems like every year under Nate Oates, this team lives and dies by the three-pointer, and when they're not falling, this Alabama team can be a little bit suspect.
Mm-hmm.
You combine that with the fact that they can't really rebound the ball, yet still average, I believe, 42 a game, which is still, it blows my mind because the games that they don't rebound are usually the games that they lose, and I feel like there's a lot of those games so far this season,
yes.
and you would like to see these teams start to fix some of the mistakes that they make early on in the season. You don't really mind too much if you drop a ranked game here and there, make a few mistakes, you figure them out, you get to practice, and then you go to work on them. But it seems like these same mistakes are reoccurring over and over and over again.
Yep, it seems to be a kind of one of those things where Nate Oates is singing the same song over and over about what his team needs, and he's using words the same way that Sean Miller is. Effort and toughness and things that they can control. That last game, by the way, was Gonzaga. That was making me scratch my head to find out what that game was there at the early part of the season when they went through a nice gauntlet of ranked teams. Lost to Vanderbilt, which is nothing to sneeze at because Vanderbilt is still undefeated and one of the top 10 teams in the country. Lost to them in their gym. And in that game, they missed 31 three-pointers and only lost by 6 points. So you can look at it glass half full, glass half empty. Yep. And then losing to Texas, I think that was kind of the gut check one. I think every now and again, teams need that kind of gut check game. And that Texas game could have been it as they now go on the road. And the good thing about, playing, in the early part of the week is you kind of, get to erase that thing fast. And I don't know if Alabama quitting is probably too strong a word.
Yeah.
But I do think at this point you need some guys to really step in because if you're listening to him talk, he's questioning a lot of the more intangible stuff.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same problem with their in-state rival. Auburn cannot find a leader right now that can step up and guide this team on the path that they were supposed to be in the preseason. Now, we talked about how you need to expect a little bit of a drop-off for Auburn. I mean, obviously, when Bruce Pearl retires, you're going to have to expect there to be a little bit of a drop-off there. But with this Alabama team, you talked about the talent coming back. LeBaron Philon, he's looking for a big night, which I believe when I was checking this, he is ice cold. Like I'm talking
he is
freezing from three-point range. I believe he's 2 for his last 18.
Right.
And before that stretch started, I think he had at least 3 three-pointers in 4 straight games. So I think we also talked earlier in the season about how this team goes where LeBaron takes them.
Exactly. And it's probably no surprise that they've had 2 kind of bad shooting nights with him also not having a great shooting night. The one thing you like to see, though, is the fact that he stays aggressive and he's still shooting that shot when they're open, and Nate Oates will always encourage that.
Yeah, and he's never going to lose the confidence. That's the one thing. He's always going to put up points whether or not he makes the three-pointer or not. But it's a little puzzling for a team that you thought coming off the Vanderbilt loss that they would get back in the gym, they'd be motivated to come back and win that game. LeBaron ended up leaving that game a little bit early. You didn't have Aiden Sherrill that game either, and that definitely hurt you. You get Sherrill back for this game against Texas, and all of a sudden Texas starts playing like the Texas of old, just out of nowhere. That guy right there, Jordan Pope. We talked last week with Noah Gross about how he put a good old goose egg up on the board, and then all of a sudden he drops 28 points. So, I mean, that's just the thing that seems to happen for this Alabama team right now, where you compound mistakes along with some of these guys having career nights against you, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
Speaking of career night, the guy on the other sideline could definitely provide that. We'll get to that in a bit, but more specifics here on LeBaron Philon. Since SEC play started, he is 2 for 16 from three-point land.
You just can't have that.
2 for 16 from three-point land. Now you can make the argument on the other side, hey, we lost those games. We lost the game close to Vanderbilt. The game with Texas was with reach, and maybe, hey, we get a B- game instead of a C- game, they probably win those games. But that's still left to be seen, and still a lot of what-ifs for this Bama team hanging on to the number 19 spot. Alabama head coach Nate Oates talking about the leaders having to step up for this squad.
I thought we didn't do much practicing yesterday. We did some videos, some discussing. I thought there was multiple guys that have stepped up, and even Reitzel, who's not playing, thought was pretty vocal yesterday. I think Taylor's been playing really well here lately. Thought he was pretty good, stepped up. Houston's, a guy that you expect is going to step up and talk, and he did. I even think Preston Murphy, he had some pretty good insight to what needs to happen. But there was a lot of guys that maybe said some stuff in film yesterday, and then I thought in practice today, I thought Aiden Holloway actually had a pretty good practice. I thought he was playing significantly harder on defense, making the right reads on offense. And I thought the energy from everybody was better, but we really need Aiden to be an elite defender, particularly in the perimeter. I thought he had a pretty good practice this morning.
I think if you're watching the SEC, you're going to have to ask yourself one question when it comes to a team like Alabama. Is this team closer to the team that beat St. John's and Illinois? Obviously, played Gonzaga, played really tough, also beat Kentucky to open up the SEC schedule. Or is this team closer to what we've seen over the last 2 games? Really cold shooting, still right there, but not just enough to get over the hump. I mean, this is a team that was the number 1 overall seed at one point, has made a Final Four in the last couple of years. Like Holden said earlier, this is too early to start making these grand assumptions about what a team will be. But I do think you have to start questioning, okay, is this team going to be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, or is this team hanging on to a bubble spot just because they'll keep losing and leaking oil, so to speak?
And I think it starts with tonight's game against Mississippi State there in Starkville. And then Holden talked about how Oklahoma's going to welcome Alabama, and Oklahoma, like their rival Texas, they're starting to get to desperation mode here, and they need some resume boosting wins. So, and I think when you look at these next 2 games specifically, I mean, Mississippi State's no slouch. I know they got blown out by Kentucky, but they've got a guy over there in Josh Hubbard who, like LeBaron Philon, isn't afraid to shoot the basketball. He averages, I believe, 22 per game, and that's up there in Division I here this year. But then you've got a Tennessee team who, again, is, like this Alabama team, is trying to find momentum as you move forward here. After that, you've got Mizzou, who beat Kentucky this year, and then Florida, the reigning national champions, who are starting to figure some stuff out, especially at the guard spot. So, I mean, this is a 5-game stretch that will – I'll just say it like this. This is going to define the season.
Oh, yeah.
Because these are 5 teams that have a lot to play for, all need a resume-boosting win. And we could be sitting here on, I believe, February 2nd is a Monday, right? I believe Groundhog Day is on Monday. We could be sitting here on Groundhog Day talking about how Alabama is 0 to start.
Wow. That would be insane.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely insane. Through the first few games of the season, this is overall stats. Alabama is number 1 in the SEC in scoring, 90 points per game. But you give up 92 to Texas.
You just can't.
You give up 90-plus at Vanderbilt. that's when it really starts to hurt you as the season moves along. Florida, by the way, is number 2 in the league. They're at 85 points per game. So even with Alabama being number 1, they're number 1 by a pretty good margin there, by 5 points there in that matchup. You talked about Mississippi State. Let's flip it over to Mississippi State because they have a really, really fun, interesting piece here because Josh Hubbard, he has been one of, if not the kind of story of the SEC individually as far as pure scoring goes. I know there's been great players all around, but if you want a pure scorer, he's been your guy, and he's been great so far through the first few games.
I believe on this show about a week or two ago, you talked about the infamous Carmelo Anthony stat line where he just shoots the basketball a bajillion times, and that's how he gets the points.
Right.
I almost feel like that's Josh Hubbard because I don't remember how many shots he took against who they played. They played Texas in the opener, and he scored 32 points. I want to say he took like 32 shots.
Wow. Yeah.
Like just a ridiculous amount. Like if you don't score 32 points, taking 32 shots, there's bigger issues here. But I mean, he still is able to put up points for this Mississippi State team that has kind of turned some heads here. I know Texas isn't really what we thought they might have been under Sean Miller to start his tenure here in Austin, but he was able to get a nice win over an Alabama team that seems to be slipping a little bit. And again, I think Mississippi State is in a prime position after the blowout loss to Kentucky. They got that out of their system. Like John Calipari said, you just got to flush the tape on it and move on to have an opportunity to get another signature win over a good Alabama team.
Yeah, so far there's been 3 scorers that have been the kind of the leading scorer so far, north of 30 points. And this goes back even to before this past year.
Yeah.
Josh Hubbard scored 38 against Alabama just last year.
Yeah.
38 points on Alabama.
No wonder why Nate Oates wants to prioritize defense.
Yes, exactly. This was January 29th. I know he had a big game, so I had to make sure I had found out the exact day. January 29th against Alabama, Josh Hubbard went for 38 points.
Wow.
That was only second to Jordan Pope for Texas, who we know is a scorer too. He could fill it up. He scored 42 against New Orleans, and then Trey Johnson scored 39 points in a Texas game over Arkansas. So I think that if you're Alabama, this is number one probably cause for concern for the defense because they have a lot of blow-bys go by them defensively, and that's exactly what Nate Oates has been talking about, their defensive effort going into this matchup. This is an interesting one. So if they can keep him in check, or maybe let him do one of the things where you let him score, and then you're like, okay, well, don't let anybody else beat us. Let Hubbard do his thing.
But I almost want to say he's kind of like Michaela Blake's on Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
He can beat you by himself.
Right.
He beat Texas by himself, basically.
That's right.
So I don't know if the answer is to take away all the other scores, because that's just going to make him shoot the ball 40 bajillion times, and he's going to end up putting up like 50 points.
Right.
Even though he's like, I don't know, probably 21 for 56 from the field. If it's just him, some LaMelo Ball, Chino Hills post Jello and Lonzo's stat line is just something like that. I mean, I don't know what you do if you're Alabama, because I almost feel like you just have to make the other guys beat you, because they haven't been able to beat other teams when Josh Hubbard isn't at his best.
Right, and Mississippi State lost to Kentucky. I thought that was more of a get-back game for Kentucky over the weekend. Lost to Missouri early on. They needed to get back and get right there at home when they were playing at Rupp Arena. Coach Chris Jans talked about his team and hot starts.
Yeah, we've been playing better and had gotten off to some really good starts recently, and that carried over into tonight. I think every coach in America would tell you, internally one of the things they would wish for was to get off to a great start when you're on the road. Try to maybe take the crowd out of it, get them questioning what's going on, et cetera. And obviously that's kind of where it looked from my advantage point, but they rallied around each other and, shored up the deficit pretty quickly. And, at the end of the day, I mean, they just played better than us.
So you going with the hot hand, with the hot starts in Mississippi State, or does Alabama get that little bit of a bounce back?
Ooh, this one is tough. I want to say, as much as I like a pure scorer like Josh Hubbard, just a guy that can just go get you a bucket and just score at will, basically, I think Alabama, they right the ship. They stop the bleeding, so to speak. You know, it seems like the ship, it's taking on water right now, and you want to be able to plug the hole, so to speak, before it basically capsizes your ship.
Right.
I think this is the chance for Nate Oates, for LeBaron Philon. I would expect LeBaron to come out guns blazing. Yeah. I would not expect him to hold back at all. I honestly, I'm going to go a crazy number. I think LeBaron drops 30 tonight.
Woo! 30 would be huge. 30 would be huge. In the same vein, I do think that this is kind of gut check time.
Yep.
And I like teams that are having to do a gut check on the road.
Yeah.
That's exactly where this team is, going to Starkville. That place will be rocking. So I think it'll be a time where they have a chance to show the league, when the only small handful of games,
right,
they have a chance to show the league, we're Bama, we'll still be here.
Yep.
Now, if they do lose this game, I think it could spell some
the alarm bells are ringing in Tuscaloosa.
No question.
There is no question about it, and they're already on to baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Which practice, a lot of teams have already opened their practices.
I believe they have their first open practice next week.
Yeah, I think it is
next week. Yeah,
I think Auburn's is sometime soon, and I saw a list of teams in the SEC that have open baseball practice with a season less than a month away. Hard to believe, but no, a gut check time here for Alabama. I'm like you. I think they get it done coming up this week.
Just have to, right?
Oh, you would figure.
You would think.
Yeah, especially with their scoring that they have so far this year.